Okay, welcome everybody. So let's make our way into child's pose, or however feels most comfortable for you to get started in your practice, just to kind of get centered and get connected. So if you're taking child's pose, you can have your toes together, your knees wide. You might want to use some props like a bolster between your thighs or rest your head on something. And again, if you'd rather a different shape to get centered in, that's totally fine. You could be seated or however works for you. And when you get there to that place, taking a few deep breaths to settle in. Just taking a moment to allow yourself to acknowledge however it is that you're feeling today. Happens to be a full moon as we are here together. And sometimes that means there's lots of energy we need to work through. Sometimes that means there's almost too much energy to work through and we feel a bit stagnant. The full moon is kind of a moment of pause in the sky. So just something to be aware of, kind of noticing how it feels in your body and what you're needing today. And as always, just being in that practice of showing up to how you're feeling and what your body needs today, and just letting that be the practice. We were just briefly talking about that lesson that comes up for so many of us over and over again in our lives, which is surrendering to the things we can't control, right? I know a lot of us would like to be able to control a lot more things than we can. And so, you know, part of the theme for today might be just surrendering to exactly what's happening and being in the practice of acceptance around that. One thing we can control to a degree is our breath. And when we work in our Vinyasa yoga practice, we work with Ujjayi pranayama. So that's that little whispering sound at the back of the throat, drawing the breath up and wide into the side ribs, and then exhaling to kind of draw back down to the core and the pelvic floor. But even as we are in that pranayama, breath control practice, part of the meaning of pranayama is to release control. It's like having control so that you can get into the flow, so that you can let go. Okay, so just exploring that rhythm of breath for yourself. And you may want to do that in stillness here for a little while. You might feel like you're ready to start coming up into some movement with it. I'm just going to come into some gentle cat and cows. We're kind of working our way up to downward dog. So just connecting with the breath is what I want you to be focusing on here. You may or may not be adding some movement. I'll meet you in downward dog at maybe about 10 breaths. And cat and cow just means usually on hands and knees. It could be seated too. Inhaling into a little back bend shape and exhaling to curl under. But you can add on to that as well, making circles or side to side motion. And I highly recommend doing this with your eyes closed, so that again, your focus is on what you're feeling, not what you think you should be doing. And just kind of leaning into that rhythm of your breath. And we'll eventually come into a downward dog shape. So I'm just taking my hands a little bit farther forward. I like first finger pointing straight forward. Some people like middle finger pointing straight forward. I find my wrists are a bit happier if I do first finger forward. Tucking the toes, lifting the hips. You can keep moving with your breath, bending one knee at a time, or just being in stillness, but keep breathing. And then when you're ready, we'll walk to the hands, coming into standing forward bend. Hanging down over the legs, you can have as much of a bend in your knees as you need there. You might be hanging, holding opposite elbows, maybe swaying. You could also have your elbows resting on your thighs. Again, with whatever movement works for you. Still breathing. And then we'll roll up, or you could sweep up if you are more comfortable in your back doing that. If you're rolling up, lean back into your heels, bend your knees a lot, gather in your belly and slowly curl. One vertebrae at a time, take as many breaths as you need. Collect your shoulders onto your back at the top. Bring your hands together in front of your heart. And let's begin our Surya Namaskar. So next time you inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, dive to the earth. Halfway lift, draw your heart forward. And then as you exhale, step your right foot back. You can lower the knee down, you don't have to. Inhale, rising into your low lunge. And then downward facing dog. Connect your palms, step back. Come forward to plank pose. You could do that on your knees or off. And you could do a little back bend there. You could lower all the way down to the ground, or you could do a little push up. Baby cobra, lifting your heart. And then downward facing dog. Catch your inhale, right leg will rise to the sky. You can take it as high as you'd like. And then step it through. You can lower your back knee down, coming into your low lunge. And then forward bend as you exhale at the top of your mat. Halfway lift. And fold. Bend your knees, rise all the way up. As you exhale, dive all the way down. Halfway lift, draw forward. Left foot back. Inhaling into your lunge, nice and long through the sides of your waist, soften the shoulders. Then downward facing dog. Coming to plank again, on or off your knees is great. You could do a little push up there or lower all the way down. And then take your cobra or your cow or your upward dog, which has the kneecaps lifted. And then press back to your downward dog. Left leg is going to rise to the sky. And then through. It helps to lean a little to the right to get that left leg forward. Heart and hands rise. And then to the top of your mat. Lengthen halfway. And melt. Bend your knees, rising all the way up. Then bring the hands as you exhale together in front of your heart. And then begin again. Reaching your arms up. And dive. Halfway lift. Right foot back, high or low lunge. Reaching the arms up to the sky. And then downward facing dog, taking a variation of Vinyasa that works for you, which could be cat and cow. Inhaling to plank. Little push up or all the way down. Pull through to a back bend that works for you. Pull the shoulders down the back. Return to downward dog. Right leg will rise on your inhale, no rush. Step it through again, helps to lean a little to the left. High or low lunge, rising up. Lovely, and then forward bend at the top of your mat. Lengthen and soften. Bend the knees, rising all the way up. And as you exhale, diving down. Halfway lift. Left foot back. Inhaling to rise. Beautiful. And then downward dog. Exploring that vinyasa sequence, moving with breath. Pulling through to your back bend. And then downward dog. Left leg to the sky. And through. Inhaling to rise. And forward bend. Lengthen and melt. And the knees rising all the way up. Bring the hands to touch in front of your heart. Take a moment just to feel. Good. Okay, let's widen the feet just a little bit farther apart, and you can play with this a little bit. If you need to turn the toes out a bit, you can. Just be aware of your knees. Okay, we're going to inhale, reach the arms up, and then on the exhale, sink the hips back and bring your fists to your hips. Press into the heels, rise back up, inhaling. Exhale, sink your hips back. Keep your back nice and neutral. Engaging the core, press into the heels and rise. Exhale. Press up. And exhale. Good. Press up. Then sink your hips. Let's stay here. Okay, and you can send your arms forward and up, but not so far that your shoulders kind of crunch up towards your ears. They can be, they don't have to be that high up, just keeping lots of spaciousness in the shoulders. Again, gathering in the belly, so your lower back is long, but it's neutral. Lift your toes up. Press the heels down and apart, feeling your glutes activate. One more breath, maybe sink a little lower. Okay, then hook your thumbs, stand on up, reach up, opening the armpits a bit. Exhale, curve to the right, soft knees. Up through center, curve to the left. Soft knees, drawing in your belly. Up through center, one more time each side. Take your time. And up. And side bend. And up. And release your hands, interlace them around behind you, or you could hook the thumbs again, or grab your strap if that's more comfortable. Hug the elbows together, lift your heart, press it to the sky. Inhale, and then bend the knees and fold down any amount, allowing the fists to rise over your head. If that's stressful for your back or your shoulders or whatever, just release your hands. We'll just take a couple of breaths here. Okay, when you're ready, gently let the hands come down the backs of the legs to the earth. Bend the knees, sit down. Okay, you might be able to do that with no hands. And then you can roll down if you like. If you are pregnant, I just recommend rolling to your side first and then coming onto your back if being on your back is safe and comfortable for you. We're not gonna be here too long. We're just gonna do a little bit of core. If you're not so comfortable in pregnancy laying on your back, you could lay back on a bolster with a little prop underneath the top edge, so you're on a bit of an angle, but see how it feels for you. It might be okay. So let's have the feet on the ground. Inhale. Exhale, gather your pelvic floor in and up, and the belly button back and up towards your heart. So we want this feeling of kind of gathering in and up, everything kind of coming together, back stays neutral. You keep your head on the ground or interlace the fingers around behind the back of your head and lift your shoulder blades up. Inhale, and as you exhale, pick up your right foot. Inhale, put it down. Exhale, pick up your left foot. Okay, inhale. We can add a little bit of a twist here. This is quite subtle. Bringing your left elbow to your right knee. Up through center. And twist. Right elbow to left knee. Okay, so just going at your pace. I don't really care how deep of a movement you're doing, but I really want you to just focus on keeping that belly button drawing in and up so it's not popping forward. Especially if you are pregnant, you really just want to watch out for making sure you're not getting any doming in the belly there. You're keeping on drawing everything in and up. You can keep working here if this is feeling easy, you want more. You can straighten your legs and work here. So the leg comes down and up and down and up thusly, okay? A little middle place would be having the feet floating, but the knees bent. Okay, so you can add on a little bit there too if you'd like. I think I'm in a middle place kind of mood today. And again, it doesn't matter so much which variation you're doing, just that you're feeling a little bit of work in your core and you're working on getting that belly button in and up. Keep breathing your ujjayi. Just a few more, you guys are doing great. If you feel like you're kind of getting fatigued, you can pause or come out altogether. Let's try 4, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Relax. You can take the soles of the feet together, knees open wide, and just take some soft, mindful breaths into your belly, allowing the belly to expand as you inhale. And relax as you exhale. You can think about the pelvic floor as well, expanding as you inhale, and just relaxing as you exhale. One more. Beautiful. Okay, so from here, let's make our way back into downward facing dog, and we can take a variation of a vinyasa just to kind of rinse that through. So if you're not pregnant, you're comfortable with it, no back problems, you can rock and roll forward and back along your spine. You might even jump back through a bent knee downward dog, or even chaturanga if you're comfortable doing that. Any of those issues that I said before, or you just don't want to, you go ahead and roll over to your side, and you just come up however you'd like to. And then take that vinyasa that works for you. Any variation. Cat and cow is a great variation. Okay, we're finding our way into downward dog, and then we'll meet up at the top of the mat so you can walk your feet forward. If you'd like, you can bend your knees, look forward, and hop lightly. And again, pregnancy, back issues, stuff like that, shoulder issues, I would rather you walk. And then rise up. You know, I would roll up here if you can. We're going to be balancing in a moment. And I find rolling up is just nice when I'm about to balance. It's like I'm pouring my weight into my feet. But if it doesn't work for you, of course, come up your way. Just taking your time to slowly rise to stand. Finding your Tadasana and taking a moment just to kind of feel the stability of your center. Having activated a little bit of core, having moved the blood and the lymph a little bit through our Surya Namaskar. Lift your toes up, spread them apart, squish them back down into the earth, finding that sense of rootedness. Lean into your left foot, pick up your right leg behind you and hold on to it with your right hand or both hands. If you've got both hands, you could interlace your fingers around the top of your foot. You don't have to. Your left hand could just be on your hip. Soften your left knee a little bit, press the knee down, squeeze the glutes, draw the tailbone down, resist the foot and the hands together. And if you've got both hands on there, you can use this as an opportunity to help to open your shoulders at the same time. So you can hug your elbows together and let your chest beam forward, but keep your lower back long. Okay, you can stay here. Or you could bend the standing leg a little bit more and start to dip forward, coming into a variation of dancer's pose, maybe both hands behind you, okay? If you're doing the more classical dancer's pose, you're gonna hold the inner arch of your foot with your right hand, the left hand is gonna come forward, okay? So different ways to play with the balance. I find when I'm holding my foot with both hands, It's a little easier for me to stay symmetrical, to keep my heart and my hips straight forward. Other parts are harder. It's a bit harder to balance. Okay, let's inhale. Gently release your foot. Hands can come just to your hips, and then step back. Okay, so you can choose a high or a low lunge here. I'm gonna do a low lunge, put my back knee down. You can pad your knee if you like. Okay, you can keep your knee lifted if you want. Hips are squaring, tailbone is drawing down. Reach your arms up. And then open into a cactus shape. Wrap your right arm under your left and take eagle arms. Or just take the backs of your hands together and pull the shoulders down your back. Hug the shoulders down. And then you can lift as much as feels comfortable for you with your breath. So take your time, finding some space in your shoulders. Really steady in the legs. If you've got that back knee lifted, it's a little bit more challenging to balance, which might be a good thing today for you. It might not be, depends on the day. Inhale, and then gently unwind your arms, take them wide and up towards the sky. And then release the hands down to either side of your front foot. Bring your back knee down if it's lifted, and we'll straighten that front leg coming into Ardha Hanumanasana. I've got my 2 blocks here underneath my hands as well. That's optional, you don't necessarily need that. And if you need a bit more space, it's totally fine to have your hands on the inside of your leg. You can even take your foot a bit wider if you need to, especially for pregnancy, sometimes that's nice. Okay, then lift your heart forward and up as you inhale, and as you exhale, melt over your leg. And just do that a few times, getting that nice length as you inhale, drawing the left hip back, and then melting in. Let's do one more. Maybe exhaling out the mouth if you've got something to release here. Full moons are good times for letting go. Okay, and then we'll look forward, bend into your leg and walk it out just a step or two so that the toes can turn a little bit off to the left-hand corner of the room. Bending the knee, you can keep the back foot down for now, and I've still got my blocks here. And we're pressing the hips gently forward to get into the hips here. So my back toes are untouched, but I'm pressing the top of the foot into the mat so that I'm still active through that back leg. You can stay right here or pick up the toes of the left foot and start to wing the knee gently open to the side. You can stay up high on your blocks, so you could come down onto your elbows. See what works for you here. This hip has been having a lot to say to me lately. So we're giving it some space. Nice deep breaths wherever you are. And again, it's that pranayama. Yama means a restraint, and the A prefix in Sanskrit can mean its opposite, like anti, and it doesn't always. So pranayama means breath, prana, yama, breath control, and also prana ayama, releasing control of the breath, right? The two things mean the same thing at the same time. So we control to release control. We control to find the flow. Okay, you can keep working here, absolutely, or we can add the quadricep of the back leg. So you might already be feeling that. You don't necessarily need this, but you can come up to your hands, take your right hand a little bit wider. I'm going to start by tucking my back toes under. The left arm can go up, bend the leg, hold on to the foot, and add that quadricep stretch. If that hurts your knee or anything else, don't feel like you have to do this, okay? Just if this works for you. You might even come back down to your elbow. Okay, and then gently release your foot when you're ready. Gently straighten out your front leg just to kind of reset the hip there, and then make your way back into three-legged downward facing dog or hands and knees. And then you can take your left leg up and just roll it open, give it a little bit of space. You can wiggle it around a bit if you want. And then go ahead and take your vinyasa, or maybe you're resting in downward dog or child's pose. And take a moment if you'd like to exhale out your mouth, go for it. Okay, right leg please up to the sky. As you exhale, bring your knee in towards your chest. Optionally, shoulders come over the wrists. Send the leg back up to the sky. Bring the knee across to the left upper arm. Then open to the right, then back up to the sky. Then last time, bring the knee to the right upper arm, open to the right, and then back up to the sky. Then step through, and we're coming into triangle pose. So spin your back heel down. Reach the left arm up and climb your right hand up to maybe your mid shin or just under the knee, wherever works for you, and open into your triangle. Hug the shoulders down the back, press the hips a little bit forward, and find length through both sides of your waist. If you're putting a little bit of pressure on your leg, which I am from here, resist with the legs. So the two things are pressing into each other and you're not locking into your knee and you're not putting pressure into the knee joint. The pressure I'm putting on my leg isn't so much to hold me up as to help me get that length along the right side waist. Inhale, then look down, come through warrior two. You might want to lengthen your stance a little bit. Lower that back hip down, knee right over top of the ankle. Gaze is just gently forward. Then flip the right palm, reach up and lean back into exalted. You can just have your left hand resting on the leg, reaching up, or my favorite variation lately is holding the back of the skull. Just gets a little bit more of the shoulder in there. Stay conscious of your front knee over your ankle. Okay, inhale. And then let's come back to triangle. So you're going to straighten that front leg again. You may or may not need to shorten your stance a bit. Reach forward and come into that same shape. So coming down from above might feel a little bit different. Maybe there's a bit less weight on that bottom hand. And then what I'd love for you to do is look down and de-weight that bottom hand, even float it up off the ground. So you might need to lift your chest a little bit higher, okay? You can keep working here, just working that oblique, or we'll try Ardha Chandrasana. So you can bend into your front leg. Left hand might start on your hip and you can grab a block if that's helpful. I like it just to the outside of my pinky toe, up on its second to highest edge. And then I've got that back leg extended, foot is flexed, and the left arm rises to the sky. So it's triangle on one leg. And if you want to work with a little bit of a challenge here, you could see what it would take to float the right hand. So again, lift your heart a little. And then see if you can stand up. Bring your hands to your heart and stand at the top of your mat. Nice work, good. You may be able to be still. You may find that you want to just shake that out a little bit. Roll your toes. Take a moment to receive, to feel. Good. Okay, soften your knees a bit. Lift your toes, spread them, reconnect them to the earth, just finding that connection into the ground. Lean your weight into your right foot and pick up your left. Hold on to it behind you with your left hand or your right hand as well. You can interlace your fingers around the top of the foot. Okay, bending your standing leg just slightly. Point the knee down, engage the glutes, tailbone down, resist the foot and the hands against each other. So nice quadricep stretch for now. And again, you could just be holding with your left hand, right hand could be at your heart or on your hip. And then we can take this into a variation of dancer's pose. So I'm bending my standing leg a bit more. Heart is tipping forward and I'm extending the leg. So I've got my foot with both hands. So my shoulders are getting a bit of an opening here too. You could also be holding the inner edge of your foot with your left hand and reaching the right arm forward. Either way, you're aiming to have your hips squared forward, heart squared forward, which is a bit easier to do holding the foot, but of course you need a little more space in the hip and thigh. It's a little bit harder to balance for me, at least. Bit of just a different experience there. Okay, one more inhale. Then as we exhale, let's gently let go of the foot, step it back. And you can lower the knee down if you choose to. You might want to pad that knee. Draw the tailbone down, hips press forward, reach your arms up. And then open, and then wrap your left arm under your right for eagle. You could also do baby eagle, holding the backs of the hands together. Hips press forward, long through the sides of the waist, letting the elbows, the beak of the eagle rise. Nice deep breaths. Staying with your ujjayi. Inhale, and then softly unwind. Reach the arms back up again. Straighten the front leg. Bring the back knee down if it's lifted. And we'll come into Ardha Hanumanasana. I'm just needing to lengthen my stance a little bit here because I want my hip just straight over top of my knee. Front knee can bend. You can use your blocks. Lengthen your heart as you inhale. And as you exhale, melt. Lengthen. And soften. Drawing the right hip back. Following your own breath. You can close your eyes if you want. One more. Good. Okay, bend into your leg. Walk it out towards the right edge of your mat and bring your hands to the inside of the front leg. Turn the toes off on a little bit of an angle to the right corner of the room. Your back toes can be untucked, but just keep some activity in the foot, keep pressing it down. That'll help your knee. Pressing the hips forward here, and this might already feel like, woo, yeah, lots going on here, so that's great. You can also pick up the toes and wing the knee open gently to the side, maybe lowering down a little bit, maybe not. Just see what works for this particular hip today. Really nice. And some of you might want to add in your quadricep here as well. So if you want to try that, come back up to your hands, take your left hand a bit wide. I like to start by tucking my toes under, just kind of activating the leg to start. Right arm rises, and then I have this feeling of kind of dragging my knee in towards me, which helps me to get onto the top of my thigh. So I'm not actually right on my kneecap, I'm on my femur bone. And then you can draw that leg in, maybe return to your elbow if you've really got some space here today. Let's take one more deep breath, maybe out the mouth. Releasing your foot if you've got it. Coming back to your hands, we'll just briefly straighten the leg just to kind of reset the hip, and then we'll organize ourselves back to downward dog or hands and knees with the right leg up to the sky, and you can roll it open. Just shake it out a little if you want. You could make a circle. And then go ahead and add a vinyasa if you wish to. Totally fine to skip it. Cool. Okay, from downward dog, or you could do hands and knees for sure. Left leg goes up. Bring the knee into the chest. Optionally, shoulders can come forward. They don't have to. Send the leg back up to the sky. Bring the knee across to your right upper arm, then loop it open to the left, and then back up to the sky. One more, knee comes to the left upper arm, and then open it more to the left, and then back up to the sky. Step through, and we're coming into triangle. So back heel spins down. Climb the left hand up the shin, turn the right arm open to the sky. Finding this nice length. Just noticing what that feels like to come into triangle from below. Often it helps us to have our hips a little bit turned down, which we want. So there's a bit of a twist that we need to do with our chest up to the sky. Resisting your shin into your hand if you've got it there. Inhale, and then come through warrior two. So you might need to lengthen your stance a little bit depending on your triangle. Knee over the ankle, lowering your back hip a little bit, just finding the power in this pose for you. Then exalt your warrior, reaching that left arm up and back, right hand just lightly on the back leg. You could also hold the back of your skull with your left hand if you want to add just a little bit more shoulder opening there. Beautiful, and then returning to triangle. Straighten your leg again, tip forward. You may or may not need to shorten that stance just a touch. So ideally you want your heart and your pelvis right in line with each other so that your left side waist is nice and long, and part of that is the hip opening. Your left glute is kind of rolling towards the back. And then see what you might need to do to float the left hand off the leg. So maybe you're engaging your core a little bit more, maybe you're lifting your chest a little bit higher. You could look down. And then let's try our Ardha Chandrasana. So you can have your right hand on your hip for now. Reaching forward, you might use a block just to the outside of your foot, about torso's distance away. Lift that back leg up. So it's the same alignment as triangle, we're just on one foot. Okay, so the hips are facing the side wall. The left outer glute is rolling back. The heart is twisting towards the sky. And again, if you're feeling like you could handle a little bit of a challenge, you can think about it first and then see what happens. Is what would I need to do to have my left hand actually floating? So my heart is high enough that my hand is actually a bit higher than the block. So if my hand were hovering over the ground, I would probably fall over because my heart would be too low. So just noticing that. Gonna come up nice and high. And then bring your hands together at your heart and see if you can just stand up nice and easy. You might be still, you might need to shake it out a little. Good. Okay, so let's try Ardha Chandra Chapasana. Now we've got all of our pieces together. So that might mean you're practicing Ardha Chandrasana again, and you might be adding a little bit of a flare. Okay, so I'm just going to put my 2 blocks to either side of my feet so that they're ready for me. Hands together at the heart to start. And just think about all of that work that we just did. So lifting up the toes, finding your core, leaning into your right foot. Actually, let's lean into the left foot first. Okay, so leaning into the left foot, de-weight the right, and then you're going to come back into that Ardha Chandrasana. So the hand is coming down, right arm up, exactly as we were just doing. But this time you could try bending your back leg, holding onto the foot, and adding this little sideways dancer's pose back bend kind of situation. Letting the right shoulder roll back, letting the heart roll forward, opening the chest. Good. Really nice, everybody. And then release the leg to straight. See if you can stand back up. Nice work. Good. Any questions before we try the other side? Okay. Feel free to ask questions anytime. Okay, let's try that on the other side. So leaning right, finding that connection to the core, really nice and long and strong through the torso, opening up. Right hand comes down to the block. You don't have to have a block, but it makes it easier. You can actually use a chair too, which is pretty great. And if this is feeling pretty stable, you want to give it a try, you can bend your back leg. A little trick with this one is you can bend the knee into the chest, hold the knee, then find your foot, then unfold. If you feel like you have no idea where your foot is behind you, that's a really good trick. Allowing the heart to press forward, shoulder to roll back, kicking the foot into the hand to find this lovely arc feeling. The Sanskrit name for this pose is Ardha Chandra Chapasana. And my favorite translation for that is drinking sugarcane in the moonlight. Okay, Ardha, half, Chandra is moon, and Chapasana is the sugarcane. Okay, gently releasing the foot, straighten the leg, stand up as you're ready. Nice job. Beautiful. Let's sweep that out, reaching the arms up to the sky, diving to the earth. Halfway lift, and then choose one last vinyasa. If you'd like, step back to downward dog, or you can sit down and lay on your back. We'll meet laying on our backs. So if you're coming down from downward dog, you could walk your feet through or bring your knees down and flip over, whatever you like. So we're quite prepared for some back bending. We're going to take bridge. Keeping in mind that if you have a favorite back bend practice that's not bridge, feel free. I find most people like bridge. It's pretty therapeutic for even lower back problems. But if you're pregnant and laying on your back is not working for you, camel pose is a nice alternative. I found for myself when I was pregnant, I could lay on my back if I was moving. I didn't want to be there for a long time, but just in movement, it was okay for me. So heels are hips distance. For me, I actually like outer hips distance. Some people like narrower. You can have your elbows beside your ribs, fingers pointing up to the sky, and outer arches parallel, okay? Press into the elbows, lift the shoulders, hug them together and down the back. Do engage the core, but you don't need to overly tuck your tailbone. Just press into the heels and rise up. You can interlace your fingers under your body, hugging the shoulders together. Hug the knees a little bit together and find that lovely length along the torso. Think of the knees pointing straight forward, trying to get away from the chest. Chest trying to get away from the knees. Length of the arms is pressing down. Gently release onto your back. Let the knees fall together or apart and just take a moment to receive the back bend. I do love back bending on the full moon. I just find however the energy has been landing, you know, sometimes it's like too much, sometimes it's too little, sometimes it's like weird dreams or difficulty sleeping. The back bends have a really nice way of just kind of flushing everything out so that we can do the release that the full moon wants of us. Let's come up again. I'll talk you through some options if you want to try wheel. Okay. So again, elbows by the ribs, fingers point up to the sky, engage the glutes and the core gently, but you don't have to tuck your tailbone, just keep it neutral. Press the hips up to the sky. Again, you can stay here. You can interlace your fingers under you, even if you're going to do wheel. Find your nice juicy bridge first. Okay, and then you can stay there. If you want to try wheel, release your hands. Place your hands beside your ears with the fingers pointing in and lower your hips a little bit. Pull the mat towards you with your feet as you press to the crown of your head. You might widen your hands a little bit and then work to straighten your arms. Okay, and then whether you're in bridge or wheel, the knees are hugging in a little bit together. Knees and chest are trying to get away from each other. If you're in wheel, relax your head. Use your glutes, but don't forget your inner thighs. Okay, gently release down, chin into chest if you're coming out of wheel. Knees can fall together or apart, just taking a moment to receive, to let go of your pranayama. Let yourself just breathe however you're going to breathe. Good. Okay, we'll take one last back bend if you have one in you. If you don't, just relax as you are, that's fine. Otherwise, set up your feet again, elbows again, same thing. Pressing into the feet, lift your hips, push the elbows down and apart, interlace the fingers, find that nice juicy back bend. Okay, think about hugging those inner thighs together, knees and chest away from each other. It's like you're trying to stretch your belly like toffee. You can stay here or release the hands and place them beside the ears, fingers point in. Lower your hips a little bit, push onto the crown of your head, and then widen your hands a bit, straighten your arms. Let the head relax, hug the inner thighs together, squeeze the glutes. Keep the knees pointing straight forward, feet pointing straight forward. In wheel, I often like to actually widen my feet to help with that. Okay, chin into chest if you're coming out of wheel, just gently releasing out of bridge. Knees fall in or out. I'm letting my arms go wide to the sides, taking a moment just to receive. Again, you can let go of any conscious breath here. Just let your breath do what it wants for a moment. Let go of control. Letting go of control requires some trust. In this case, that your body knows how to breathe for itself. Okay, let's release the legs. You can send them up to the sky and give them a little shake. And then place your feet back on the floor and take your left ankle onto your right thigh. Hold on to the back of your right leg and gently hug in for thread the needle. Keep especially the left foot flexed. Both feet can be flexed. You can be still or you can explore some rocking gently from side to side. And I'd love for you to stay aware of your breath. You can keep a nice deep breath going here, but it doesn't have to be that strong Vinyasa Ujjayi because the core is supported. So we can let the breath move down into the belly here. Okay, when you're ready, let's gently release the legs again. I like to shake them up towards the sky. And then you can take your left ankle onto your right side and draw in. Just coming to the second side. And I should have mentioned before, if you're not liking laying on your side here, you can do the same exact shape seated, okay, if you need to come up to a seat. Again, you can rock a little from side to side, or you can be still. Keep the left foot flexed. It helps to have both feet flexed just for the habit of it, but the left foot flex is really what's going to protect your knee and make sure that the stretch goes into your hip. Beautiful. When you're ready, again, let's let that go. You can shake your legs up to the sky. That's usually how I like to release that. And then let's take a simple supine twist, your favorite one. With pregnancy, it's nice to do feet wide, knees fall to the right. That gives your belly lots of space. You can also have a block between your knees, pick up your knees, shift your hips a little to the left and bring your knees down to the right. And that's for many of us benefit from this one. You don't necessarily need the block. You can see how it feels for you. Opening the left arm to the left and just taking that lovely twist. Twists are nice to do towards the end of a practice, just resetting the spine from whatever we were doing, and they tend to be quite calming for the nervous system for many of us. And then gently returning to center, you can engage the belly, also bring in the top knee and then the bottom one. Shift your hips a little to the right, pick up the knees and take them down to the left. If you're doing that two knees twist, maybe the block between, maybe not. If it feels better for you today for any reason, the windshield wiper twist, it's a little bit more located down in the hips. There's lots of room for the belly, so you can do that one too, just depending on what you need today. Wherever you are, let that right shoulder kind of sink into the earth. Sort of depends on your body here. Some people find they need to keep a little bit of work in the core to stay comfortable in a twist. But if you do feel quite safe and everything feels good, you can let your breath move a bit more down into your belly. Okay, when you're ready, gently coming back through center. Again, you can do top knee, then bottom one, engage the core, gently come in, draw your knees into your chest, and then we'll take one final symmetrical pose. If you have something in mind, something that you need to complete your practice, please feel free to take that as long as it's symmetrical and generally calming for you, which everyone is different. I'm going to take Happy Baby, a simple one we can do from right here. So the soles of the feet go up to the sky. You can hold the feet, the toes, the ankles, whatever is accessible. And some people like to rock a little bit from side to side here, others just to be still, and that's fine too. This tends to be nice for the lower back. And then when that last pose feels complete for you, just need a couple of breaths there. You can release it, shake the legs again if you want to, and make your way into your Shavasana. So that might mean that you're simply kind of flopping out. You might want to put a bolster under your thighs. You might need to adjust in some way. So again, with pregnancy, you can lay on your back if it's comfortable. Generally, your body will know. But if it doesn't feel right, you can lay on your side with a prop under your head. You can lay with your bolster behind you on a little bit of an angle, or you can even be seated if that's most comfortable for you. So your Shavasana is the most comfortable you could be today. When you get there, take a nice deep breath. Receive. Take a moment to notice how you're feeling right now. How you're connecting with the energy that is moving through you, that is around you. You're welcome to stay if you have the time and you want to. Otherwise, you can begin to deepen your breath and bring some small movements into your body. You can take a stretch. Draw your knees in and gently roll over to one side. Make your way up to a seat. Your palms can return to the center, or maybe you want to hold them over top of your heart, or hand on heart, hand on belly, whatever feels right for you today. And gently bow your mind to your hands, honoring and acknowledging whatever it took for you to get here to your practice today. Honoring and acknowledging the long and complex lineage of teachers that is with us in our yoga practice. Honoring and acknowledging the sacredness of the land that we practice on. Thank you for sharing your practice with me today.